is the Seahawks Podcast, episode 466. I'm Brandon Schultz, and I am joined by my good buddy, Adam Emmert. Adam, here we are, the end of May. Happy Memorial Day weekend to you, buddy.
Hey, back to you, my man. And beautiful, beautiful day here in Montana. It's getting hot. I don't like that. But that also means that things are heating up for the Seahawks, right? Like OTAs coming up around the corner. So we get to talk a little bit about that. And let's see, we talked about some rule stuff. There's a few things on tap that you got for us here, Brandon. There's some lists.
It is. List season is in, I'll say, preseason form, because I don't think list season truly kicks off until after team OTAs and the mandatory minicamp are over. Because then once those two things are over, then it's like football. Everybody goes on vacation. Then we're in list season until training camp starts. But it's, like I said, preseason form. We got a few lists coming out, and they're worth talking about.
List season creep. Is this like Christmas creep?
It is.
The same sort of thing?
Okay. Yeah. Just like you're probably in Costco over this weekend and starting to see winter sweaters and Halloween candies showing up.
Negative. Come on, Costco, do better.
You never know. It's you go there to buy a swimsuit. This is my gripe, my Costco gripe, to get this out of the way. This is not a do better. But when you go into Costco in the summertime and you're like, oh, I need some swim trunks, I need some beach stuff, and then that stuff is all gone. And you ask them where it went, and they're like, oh, we had that 3 months ago.
Right. And I think the moral of this story, Brandon, is piss poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on Costco's. Like, you needed to think about your swim trunk needs about 3 months earlier, right?
Yeah, February. Apparently, right around Valentine's Day is when you start thinking about what you need for the summer at Costco.
That's right. Now you got to go pay full price at Target for that pair of swim trunks. And so, we're going to need a few more people getting in the flock. Otherwise, Brandon's going commando. We can't have that.
Getintheflock.com. Save me from commando style summer swim trunks. If you're in and around Montana, it'll be well worth it.
Well worth it. Exactly. Hey, man, I know you're as pacey as I am. That reflection might be seen all the way out in Seattle. You never know.
It's probably true. So we're going to get into all that. But first, Adam, let's thank our sponsor, BodySpec. Getting into our fitness journey throughout this summer season. Whether you're an athlete, a fitness enthusiast, or just getting back in shape, BodySpec has you covered. For less than the price of a haircut, you can access DEXA scans, the world's most accurate body composition scan, because, you truly want to understand that body of yours, and you can right now with an exclusive $10 discount on single scans. You just got to use that promo code SHP for Seahawks Podcast, SHP at checkout. These DEXA scans focus on numbers that actually matter, your body composition, your bone density, and overall health metrics. It's a powerful way to take charge of your well-being, and you could do it without the need for insurance or complicated procedures. BodySpec's competitors charge $150 or more for a single scan, and you can get this for way less than $100. Give the gift of a DEXA scan today. Hit that QR code you see on the screen, or go to bodyspec.com/C-Hawkers and use that promo code SHP for your special Flockers discount. Adam, as we get into the summer season, as we get into shorts and commando style running around the yard season, we're also getting into the season for OTAs. And with OTAs coming up in these next couple weeks, quite a bit of turnover from this past season. I'm curious if you have anything that you're interested in hearing out of this OTA, out of these couple weeks of OTAs.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that jump off the page, but I think the most important thing that I really want to hear out of OTAs, not that guys are going to be banging around and all that stuff with full pads and everything, but I want to hear that Grey Zabel fits the part. That he looks like a starter. He's out there with the guys. That's the guy that you're looking at and going, oh yeah, that's going to work out. That's how I want the coaches to feel coming out of it. That's the number one thing. Cause I think that would be it's weird to think that his success, the team's success is tied to his success to a great deal because of the way that John maneuvered the offseason. So That's number one for me, man. I don't know if that lines up with any of the stuff you've been thinking about or if there's other things on your radar.
Well, there are other things on my radar, but the fact that you bring that up, it does make me wonder if there's ever been, just in the last 10 years, a first round pick where it feels like there's that much weight on the first round pick, right? And I think we've drafted other offensive linemen in the last 10 years, but I don't think that we've looked at it as being such a critical need. I mean, like, because if he doesn't work out, then there's so many other pieces of that offensive line that then have to flex and that we haven't seen actually work in the past, that then you're counting on a lot of things. Like, I only want to count on one or two guys making the leap from previous years that have been on the team that were third and fourth round draft picks. Like, those guys elevating. When you draft a guy at number in the first round for offensive line with first guard off the board, really. Well, no, Tyler Booker, probably a guard. But right up there, there is a lot of weight on that position. And I don't know if we've had that necessarily.
No, it's always felt like throughout this run with John Schneider at the helm that the Seahawks were a hyper competitive team. And so even your first round pick isn't the guy that's going to make or break your season to a degree. I think with the way that the offensive line has coalesced or hasn't over the last few years, yeah, this is a monumental deal. And it's something that John hasn't done either, right? So wanting to see that success so that it has that positive reinforcement for John being like, this is the way. Like, you spend big time draft capital on the trenches. And I mean, obviously you did that last year with Byron Murphy, just on the opposite side of the ball. But as you said, if Zabel doesn't seem to be a guy that can step in and be a starter out the gate, then you are relying on two of the three, Bradford, Haynes, Lamea. I guess if you want to throw Sundell in there, fine. You're hoping that two of those guys make the leap. I always wanted to only count on one of those guys making the leap coming into this year, just playing the odds. But we'll see. I mean, this Zabel thing's got to work. But when you listen to all the guys that really do know the position and all of that stuff, they're just like, hey, this guy's a dude. It's going to be fine. And maybe that's why I'm uncomfortable with it, Brandon, is that it hasn't happened since we started this podcast, really, that they've drafted a guy that high to play interior offensive line. So it's kind of nerve wracking because it's something I've been calling for. You've been calling for it. And here it is. I want it to work. Catfish, like, let's go.
Well, the only place that we've actually seen it happen and seen it work, and fortunately, that's been at the left tackle spot, right? Where Schneider, during his time frame, has drafted two left tackles that have come in and then filled in and become solid starters at that spot.
Absolutely. Both Cross and Okun have both been good starters in valuable picks. I was talking just more like the interior.
Oh, I know. But you did specify interior, but it made me think outside of even the interior, that's it. And I suppose if you're not taking
James Carpenter.
Yeah, but that didn't work.
I mean, they drafted him as a tackle. They moved him inside. By his last year, he played well, and then we just let him go.
Yeah, I'm thinking long-term too. So, because Damian Lewis obviously worked out during his 4 years and was fine, but
not a first
round pick. Yeah. So that combination, it's something we haven't seen. We're looking forward to seeing that. I'm also looking forward to one of the things that I would like to see is hearing about a quarterback. I mean, preferably that would be Sam Darnold, but if it's Jalen Milroe, I'll be happy too. A quarterback having command of this offense. And we heard it from Gino when he was taking over from Russ, kind of in that OTA session when he was the quarterback leading the offense. We started to have that, but that was a little bit different because he had been with the team. So he'd, gelled with the teammates already. There wasn't that transition of then also just being a good teammate out there. That he was also like, he had the offense. He knew his teammates. All he had to do was step into the role. And I think both with Sam Darnold and with Jalen Milroe, I mean, Drew Lock would be the one guy who has those things that Gino had, right? So even throw him into the mix too. If you want to say a quarterback, just having command and control over that offensive group, I think Sam's going to be the one getting all the snaps. But I want one of those guys to just you start to hear those stories coming out of how the quarterback is commanding the offense in these early days of the OTAs.
And for you, the guy that you'd want to hear that about most is Sam.
I think it makes the most sense for this year's success of the team, because going back to it ties right into the offensive line discussion, because if you have that point of failure on the interior of the offensive line, and you can even have that over at the right side, say Grey Zabel, he works out fine at left guard. Well, you still have center, and you're not elite across the entire interior of your offensive line. So Sam Darnold's going to be one of those guys that requires that to be relatively set. We can't have him operating similar to the way Geno operated last year, where he's having to dodge pressure immediately. You're not going to see that during OTAs. So, but I'm talking about preparation for the regular season.
Right.
So I think that Sam provides the best success, because if you have struggles on the offensive line, I think it's going to make it harder for Sam, but he is a veteran. It's going to make it, I don't want to throw in Jalen Milroe behind an offensive line where he's taking pressure right away. I think that was some of the reason why his development at Alabama kind of suffered during parts of like his junior season.
Oh, I think junior season, I think everybody agrees, was better than his senior season. I mean, he struggled harder in the senior season because of exactly what you're saying, some of the protection issues, even though that there were some good players there. But that started
toward the end of the junior season.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. And that's fine. Obviously, everybody knows how I feel about that Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb offense. I think that's a difficult place to play in for a lot of guys if you don't have elite talent up and down your roster, as they did in Washington a couple years ago. So for me, if you're going to listen to about anything about the quarterbacks that is positive, somebody taking command, somebody really having a control of the offense and all of that stuff, boy, I'd much rather hear that about Milroe than I would about Sam Darnold. I'm just going to say it, man. I don't give a shit about Sam Darnold. I don't. He's not the long-term answer.
You're not into that's my quarterback mode.
I don't know that I'm ever going to get there with Sam. But then again, it happened with Geno. So, like, never say never, right? That would be ridiculous to say. But I'm not a Sam Darnold believer. Haven't ever been. And so, sure, you hear, oh, he's been around. He's got such command. He's been with Cubes for, a season before. And, like, it's all going to fit. Well, Drew Lock, he's been around. He's been around a lot of different offensive coordinators. I mean, that's a guy that could, take a step up. And it's not like Milroe is unfamiliar with a pro-style offense. That's what they ran more with Saban when he had the bulk of his success. So it's something that he could fit in operate as well. If there was a world that Milroe came in and shocked the world and was just like, no, I'm way more ready now than anybody thought, I think that would be the greatest news ever coming out of camp. And you talk about which guy you want playing behind a leaky line, a guy in Sam Darnold, who I don't care what the stats at Hawk Blogger threw out about the pressure numbers from last year and the way he compared those, because I don't think it was a fair way to do it. Sam Darnold is not as good under pressure as Geno Smith. Like that's something that we saw. You just use your eyeballs. It's not hard to see. Sam Darnold has struggled every single time that he's been in a situation that's been less than the quarterback's Goldilocks zone. And I think Milroe could succeed better behind a leaky offensive line than Darnold because of the movement ability in his legs. So I would much rather hear some positive stuff about Milroe than I would about Sam, because at best, I believe in my heart of hearts, it's a 1 year as Sam Darnold, and then we're moving on, which is just fine by me.
Well, and I'd be ecstatic about that. I mean, this is the time of year where, well, shoot, I think with Russ, we might even heard it in rookie mini camps where Pete was saying, hey, this guy came in and was totally prepared and he's going to be fighting for a starting job. And that's not something you necessarily hear from every rookie that comes in. But I mean, I guess you don't have anything to compare that to necessarily through Seahawks time because you didn't really have any rookie quarterbacks coming in.
That's right. And the other thing is when I'm saying that about, like, I'd love to hear that about Milroe. If I'm thinking the what's more likely game here, it's far less likely that we're going to hear that Milroe's come out and like really taking this job by the horns in comparison to, say, Sam Darnold. You're going to hear that Sam looks good. He's in command of the offense. He's a veteran. Seahawks are really high on being able to duplicate what he did last year with Minnesota. And that's
I'm not talking about hearing it from like Seahawks.com. I'm talking about hearing from those reporters who are there at OTAs, because if Darnold doesn't look great out there when you're not talking about running padded practices and that sort of thing, I think there could be a little bit of panic fan base that could be induced if he's coming out and throwing. Gosh, you hear it even years ago when, Brock Purdy came in and was throwing like 5 straight picks or something like that in practice. And fans go, oh no, like that's going to get out through other reporters who are there watching.
No doubt about it. I just feel like if you're thinking about quarterback storylines going through OTAs here, I think the storyline is most likely even the beat reporters that aren't employed technically by the Seahawks. The story is going to be that Sam looks pretty good. Milroe's still learning. Drew Lock looks steady. It's going to be something like that. Is it good news if we hear that Sam Darnold looks fine in OTAs and people are fired up about it? Probably. Yes, it is. That is good news. Just put me in the camp of, I kind of don't care.
Okay. What else?
No, I mean, not that you're wrong. It's just that player, right? Like,
I understand. It's when you, when your fandom goes, deep behind a particular quarterback, and, you and I both went through this with Russell Wilson. Like the time when he was traded, it was like, oh my gosh, our quarterback is now gone. And I think it's not unusual to invest a lot of emotions into your quarterback spot. Which is why I think even as soon as Sam Darnold was announced as our quarterback, people start going, okay, this is now my quarterback. I got to shift my emotional fandom behind Geno now into Darnold and be fully on board, because that's just how your team functions is through your quarterback.
Oh, well, I mean, it's obviously the most important position in all of sport, and that's cool. I guess for me personally, it's one of those things where you've watched somebody play multiple stops and have kind of come to a more or less of a conclusion as to what that player is. And then,
just like you did with Baker, and you poo-pooed me on wanting Baker Mayfield on this team, and then he goes to Tampa, and it's like, oh, now look at Baker. He's kind of fun to watch.
Look, I know that we've gone through a little bit of a stretch here when you could point at Geno and Baker, and then people put Darnold in there as well, of the renaissance of the guy, right? Like of that quarterback that didn't quite live up to his draft standard.
Yeah.
And
now just wait for Justin Fields to do it too. That's fine.
These things kind of go in waves. I mean, if you just look back over the last 10 years, and exclude last year when people kind of had this realization, oh my gosh, look at Baker, look at Darnold, look at these guys. That hasn't worked traditionally.
Right.
Like that hasn't been a relatively normal, repeatable path for guys in the league. And I guess that's why I have such strong reservations about the quarterback. And we can get into this a little bit more when we get to the list, because I do think that illustrates some of my feelings on the matter. But just any of the guys looking good coming out of OTAs, Brandon, you're right. That would be a positive. Let's hope that's the case, rather than it's just a struggle fest all the way across the board.
Well, we've talked about offense primarily. Any other guys on offense that you're kind of looking to hear about from OTAs, or are you thinking defense?
I'm kind of going to defense at that point. I think if you heard that Horton came out and really put on a show early. Is he even ready to go in OTAs? I don't know.
Either.
Coming off
that's one
his
that
injury.
I think one of the storylines that is one of the ones that we'll want to pick up on is that because there's some of these rookies that they get drafted and then come OTAs, you find out, okay, well, they're dealing with lingering issues that to where they can't even be involved in OTAs, and where you were kind of excited to start hearing about them already, then now you're pushing things off until training camp. And so that's one of the storylines. If we want to carry that over offensively and defensively, although there's a lot fewer on defense to get excited about. It's just that, finding out which rookies are ready to go in this OTA period and to start competing for those starting jobs.
You betcha. I think probably the other just health thing that comes out of OTAs that you hope to hear as a Seahawks fan is that Kupp doesn't come out of OTAs injured. Like every week that dude's healthy is a gift. Like that's where he kind of is with his career at this point. So
it's kind of a low intensity period, though. It's not like
old dudes get hurt all the time, especially guys that it starts to come apart,
Sure.
And of all the position groups in a low intensity, quote unquote, type training camp, the guys that do the most work that's closest to what their real job looks like
probably
is receivers, DBs, that sort of thing. So,
All right. Anything else? Or are you ready to get into some lists?
Oh, I just say defensively, this is the big thing for me, Brandon. I want to hear that Byron Murphy's made the leap. I want to hear that he's extra explosive, popping out of his stance. He's just crazy twitchy. He's 20 pounds heavier. He's 20 seconds faster. He's, 20 times smarter, all that stuff, right? Like all those things. That's what I want to hear about Byron Murphy. Because if he does take that leap and matches the talent that we all have seen at times throughout his first year, all of a sudden this defense is mega scary.
Get the hype train going for this defensive line is what I'm hearing, because if you have
not hype. I want it to be true facts.
The true facts these guys talent are kicking train. Ass. There we go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of alliteration in that.
True facts talent train. You bet.
The true facts talent train. Get it started. Get the momentum moving, because when you have Boye Mafe on the defensive line, when you have Leonard Williams, I probably should have led with Leonard Williams. When you got Byron Murphy, DeMarcus Lawrence coming in,
Reed back, you bet.
That has the most potential to be a really fun group this year.
Backed up by that linebacking core, you betcha. Ernest and Knight behind them.
I don't know if you're going to get that much, though. I guess you'll get some of the twitchiness stuff, but
exactly. That's why I pointed that out. Like, what do you want to hear out of OTAs? Because you're not going to hear that he's physically dominant in OTAs. They're not going to get the opportunity to do that. So
just moving around,
getting around guys, making them look stupid, getting to the quarterback. Because it did seem like he was
unless
about
it's
a half
Grey
a
Zabel,
step away.
Then it's fine if Byron Murphy's getting matched up against Gray, and then it's making Gray look good.
That's fine. Like half the time, and then half the time I want it to go to the other way. Yeah.
That's always the tough balance that you have to take dealing with first team versus first team guys.
Yeah. Receivers look great. Crap, our DBs are trash. Like that's kind of that dichotomy there that you can look at it. Yeah.
That's the part that I don't necessarily care for. Ooh, Sam Darnold threw 4 picks. Ooh, Nicky Memori's tearing it up as a rookie.
That's right. The big nickel's looking good. Yeah. So silver linings abound throughout OTAs, no matter what you hear, short of like major injuries.
Well, are there any silver linings to the all 32 starters quarterback rankings list, Adam, that Pro Football Focus put out? Because I think with the start of any list, you have to look at how it's organized, because there's so many different ways that you can rank out some guys with the top tier elite talent like PFF. I mean, it just makes sense when you go down and you see, okay, well, the elite are Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Yeah. When you think of the NFL and the top quarterbacks, if you were to ask me to name those 4, that would probably be it, right? And maybe you'd throw in some of the younger guys, but even with Jaden Daniels, maybe there's some hesitation to put him in there up with the elite because you've only seen it for 1 year. When I look at those 4 guys, I say, okay, they've done it over multiple years. They've been in the MVP conversation or have had MVP. I don't know if Joe Burrow's won MVP yet, but every other one of those 4 guys has.
Yeah, that's a talented pool of QBs there, no doubt about it. Any team would be thrilled to have any of those guys leading their organization. So the first category was elite. What are the different categories if we were to go down them here?
Yeah, elite is tier 1. Tier 2 is high-end starters. Tier 3, and they divide up tier 3 into 3A and 3B. 3A are the solid starters who have flashed high-end play. 3B are solid starters, but they need more help. And then there's tier 4, which is young players. I call this just young guys that we don't know for sure yet, but we know that they're kind of good. There's that list. And then tier 5, veterans capable of solid play, but could be quickly replaced. And tier 6, low-end starters and not long-term options.
Okay. I think it's a little convoluted at the bottom of that, but I like the tiers as the most part there, the way that they organize that. That makes sense in my brain for the most part.
So in those in tier 2, we'll run through tier 2 real quick because high-end starters, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Matt Stafford, Justin Herbert. He's at the bottom, I think, for a reason with those 4 names. Do you think Jared Goff is in the right tier? Because he's at the top of 3A, solid starters who have flashed high-end play. It's kind of the margins of these lists where you have some of the questions. Justin Herbert, Jared Goff. Does it feel right to divide the tiers between those 2 quarterbacks?
So Herbert is the end of high-end talent.
Tier 2 high-end starters, yeah.
High-end starters, okay. I like where Herbert is. I do think that you got to look at his journey in just where he's been with the different coaches. This is year 2 going into it with Harbaugh. I know the playoff stuff hasn't looked good. Look, if he has one more massive playoff meltdown, I think at that point, that's when we all go, okay, once it's coincidence, twice a trend, 3 times a problem. But I kind of believe that he's still on the ascension with the coaching and the type of team that they're building around him. So I've got some hope there. I think I would put Goff in that same category with Herbert, high-end starter. I mean, you can't win that many games over the last 2 seasons and take your team to an NFC championship game. And then while they exited earlier than I think a lot of people had expected early in the year of the playoffs, that defense just got riddled with injuries. And I mean, that's not Jared Goff's fault. And I think he's played his way into that tier. So that would be, I'd bump him up if I were you. I don't know if
that lines up with how I was thinking too, because I look at this, especially in this high-end starters list, I see a lot of quarterbacks with playoff success. And that's why I was looking at Herbert and going, well, he hasn't had the playoff success, but I think the potential exists there. And with Jared Goff, I go, well, the playoff success is there with 2 different teams. So he's done with the Lions and he did it with the Rams previously, took him to a Super Bowl. So I have a hard time a little bit there when I'm thinking playoff success and those quarterbacks. 2 of the guys on this list, Jalen Hurts, Matt Stafford, have both won Super Bowls. So that to me, I think to be in that tier, playoff success is kind of essential to me.
That makes sense. I like where your head's at with that. That's a good defining factor.
Because I look at this next part of the list that Jared Goff is also included in, the solid starters who have flashed high in play. Well, there's only... So if you were to bump up Jared Goff, then there's only 2 names on this list. And then I would just group all these other guys together as solid starters. But guys that haven't had... There's some playoff success in here, but not a ton. And that's Geno Smith, Brock Purdy, and then the 3B list starts with Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, CJ Stroud, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, and Tua. Oh, and Dak. Okay. Dak's in there too.
Okay. I think I would put Love in the 3A category. because he has flash high-end talent. Absolutely. And has a couple playoff wins under his belt and all that. Didn't look quite as good last year.
Flashed.
And yeah, that's where I was going to. I'd put Stroud up in that situation. He's won a playoff game both years he's been in the league. Like, that's good. That's good stuff, especially with a tough offensive line last year. I think people get a little fixated on the stats with him. Mayfield, he's won in the playoffs now, and you got to give him his credit. Super late bloomer, but hats off to you, my man. I think I'd put him up there in that Geno category. But Tua definitely down in the bottom. Lawrence definitely down in the 3Bs. Who would I be leaving out at that point?
Kyler, Dak, Tua.
Dak. Dak.
I feel like we're starting to get to know that Dak is not like, I think he needs help. I think that's the right category for him.
Yeah.
I would bring Geno down from the flashed to needs help category. Like, I don't think I'd put him ahead of Brock Purdy.
Oh God, I'd definitely put him ahead of Brock Purdy. They win a Super Bowl with Geno Smith instead of Brock Purdy. They do.
I don't know.
Look, there's a clear talent
the year
difference
that they were in the Super Bowl, maybe, but Geno has to win a playoff game for me to elevate him to that tier.
Look, if that's your criteria and you're mad at Geno not winning a playoff game, like, I would postulate like, okay, which good defense has he played with in the playoffs? Which good offensive line has he played with in the playoffs? Which good offensive coordinator has he played with in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Which good running game has he played with in the playoffs? The only help that he's had is good perimeter guys.
So now Adam is changing this to everyone belongs in solid starters but needs help category.
Yeah, every single quarterback. Put them all in there. But you understand what I'm saying. Like, some need more help than others. I believe Sam Darnold is more in that I need a Goldilocks zone for quarterback play to have success than, say, somebody like Geno Smith, who we've seen do it under extreme adverse conditions. Like, that's the part.
Sam Darnold, absent from that list. He is in a lower tier.
Okay. All right. That'll be interesting. What was the next one then?
The next tier was tier 4, young players with a wide range of potential outcomes. And so it's kind of a weird spot just to say, well, these guys are all young and we kind of don't know. And that's Bo Nix, Bryce Young, JJ McCarthy, Drake May, Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, even Cam Ward, who hasn't played an NFL snap, gets put on this list as, this is kind of the shrug. We'll see. Part of the list.
I get that. And I do believe that I respect lists that go and say, look, okay, Jane Daniels had a great year. Absolutely. But it was 1 year. Like, let's take and we'll put that in context of we need to see a hell of a lot more. Not that I would bet against him doing similar things to what he did last year. I think he's an amazing talent and is an ascending guy, but we have to see it first. Like, that you just have to see it once or at least 2-3 times before I'm like, yeah, okay, throw him up there in the elite status. Based off the 1 year, you could almost throw him up in the first tier.
Right.
But I do respect that they have a lot of these guys who, you need to see more from before you really start.
This list to be quarterbacks you'd rather have than anybody else that would be below them within the list. Like, yes, they're young, but I would rather take a chance on that youth over maybe some of the other quarterbacks. Because I look at Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy, Drake May, Michael Penix. Would I rather have any of those 4 guys over Tua? Yeah. Would I rather have any of those guys over Dak? Probably. Trevor, it's getting to the point to where I'd say, I might rather have one of those guys over Trevor to this point. He's been in a tough spot, but yeah. And
that's a fair evaluation.
And that's why I would, I guess that's how I would break out that part of the list. And then I would, I'd take Bryce Young off of it, and I would take Cam Ward off of it, because I'd put him in a different part of both those guys in a different part of the list.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you buy into 4 great Bryce Young games and the Canales has them fixed and all that, like, good for you. But I'm definitely not there. And as far as rookies coming in, it would be like putting Jalen Milroe on the list of like dudes with potential or something. Like, he hasn't done jack. So no, we're good.
I'm going to drop down to tier 6. We'll talk about tier 5 last. Tier 6 is low end starters and not long-term options. I don't know if I have. Would I put Bryce Young down as a low end starter and not a long-term option?
I would.
I wouldn't put Cam Ward there though. He's just a rookie quarterback, so we haven't even seen him in the NFL yet.
I'd almost just take him off the list.
Take him off the list.
Right. Not that he's done anything wrong. It's being drafted number 1. Just, your time's coming, man. And then we'll put you in.
I think he gets put on this list, though, just because where are you going to put Will Levis down as Tennessee's quarterback? No, it's pretty obvious that they're going into the season with Cam Ward as their quarterback.
Yeah.
But, tier 6 wouldn't be a fair spot for him because we don't know if he's a low-end starter or not long-term option. That belongs to Joe Flacco, Anthony Richardson, Mason Rudolph, who is currently the Steelers quarterback until they sign somebody else, and Tyler Shuck they put in for the Saints. So obviously they didn't have a problem throwing a rookie quarterback and Shuck at the bottom at number 32 as a low-end starter and not long-term option. So I guess maybe Cam Ward does belong there, just one spot ahead of Shuck.
Okay. I mean, he's a much better talent than Shucker the Chucker, but we'll see what happens down there in New Orleans. Best of luck to him. So like Minshew isn't a part of this list because he's not projected to be a starter. Is that right?
Yeah. Just the 32 currently expected starters.
Okay. Cause this is where I would call this the Ryan Fitzpatrick, Gardner Minshew category. Like that's what
you're starting to get into
these
backups.
Guys are.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, low end starter comes in, can get you through 5 games and look pretty good, or high end backup.
I'm surprised they didn't put Shedeur Sanders ahead of the depth chart for the Browns over Flacco already, because I feel like within the media, Shedeur Sanders is already even ahead of the Oregon quarterback, Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? I think one of the things that I learned this offseason going down to Shrine Bowl and all of that stuff is how much the evaluations of these players is less on kind of the facts on the ground and is more about the scuttlebutt around, like just the narratives that are passed around these things between one another. And, oh, well, that's a smart guy. He said that. Well, then that's what I say. And I feel like that's where we got with Shedeur. And it's amazing to watch the media grapple with the fact that he's not good at quarterback. And that's why.
And the Browns even thought so because they drafted another quarterback ahead of him.
They had your number 2 guy ahead of him, clearly, right?
Yeah.
And look, I think it's hilarious that everybody's just like, well, yeah, I mean, Sanders is a likely starter there. Well, you got to beat out a guy who's way better than you that they spent a higher draft pick on.
Yeah. And a veteran who's won a Super Bowl.
Right. And the narrative that I hear around the Gabriel thing all the time is, well, he doesn't push the ball downfield. He doesn't have the arm. I could make you a cut up right now of NFL power throws that are outrageously impressive, and it would change your mind completely. Not you, but the proverbial you.
Just go watch the Michigan game. They're all
the
there.
Ohio State game. Yeah, it's there as well. I think he threw like a 60-yard dot down the sideline opposite hash. And people are like, oh yeah, he's just a dink and dunker. But the media just cannot grapple with the fact that they were so freaking far off on Shedeur Sanders. And every time I hear somebody do a segment on, they're like, well, nobody predicted he'd be down here. I'm like, I did. Me. That's where I said, like, he's just not good.
All right. Well, I did not predict when I looked at these different tiers that I would see Sam Darnold in tier 5, but maybe it makes some sense. Veterans capable of solid play, but could be quickly replaced. And there's only 3 names in here, which is kind of interesting. That's Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. And one of these guys is, all of these guys are either on their 3rd or 4th team at this point.
That's right. Guys who have had different levels of success throughout their career. in at different points in their career. You look at Russ, and it's last chance you up there in New York. I mean, this is it. You either make it work or you don't as a starting quarterback at this point. And I think just his limitations running around has really just changed the game for him to a point to where he just can't be as effective as he used to be. And so if you even wanted to put him a tier lower at this point, I'd be fine with that. But out of respect for what he's done for the majority of his career, I can see why they put him in there. And then you look at Fields, and if you think he's going to take a leap with the Jets, and like it's that's
where I kind of my hopes on his, elevating his game, it kind of stops with the fact that he's on the Jets. Could he do it maybe with a different franchise? I would have a little bit more positivity toward his upside, but because it's the Jets, and he has Tyrod Taylor behind him, who's a very capable veteran quarterback, and so it ends up seeming to fit because you got Jackson Dart waiting in the wings there with Russell Wilson. You have Tyrod Taylor, again, veteran, capable veteran. I like Taylor more than I like, Mason Rudolph, who's he's probably going to be the backup.
T-Mobile over Mason Rudolph, you bet.
So, yeah, I wonder if Sam Darnold being in this spot could be quickly replaced. Is this more about Drew Lock and Jalen Milroe than it is Sam Darnold? Or I guess I'm having a harder time with, and maybe that's why he's the top name on this list. He probably should be up there with some of those 3B names, especially, with Tua being on. Like I have a problem with.
Tua's done more than Darnold in his years. Despite the concussions and all that. But Tua's had two or three successful years.
Had a lot of help there down in Miami, though, too.
Right. And Sam Darnold's only looked good when he's had a lot of help.
Well, that was just Minnesota last year. Like, if you were to put Darnold in that Miami offense, I bet he'd look pretty good. I bet he'd look Tua good.
Yeah, he'd look Tua good. And I've never been a Tua guy. It all kind of comes full circle there. But Tua's had more success in the league since he's been drafted than Darnold has.
That's why situation matters for a lot of these, because if Sam Darnold gets drafted to the 49ers team that has Brock Purdy, like Sam Darnold could have been doing Brock Purdy things all this time, probably.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
I think the potential exists because the higher level of talent, obviously coming into the league, and the coaching, it all plays into it.
He also couldn't beat out Brock Purdy for a starting job.
Well, Purdy had solidified his starting job at that point.
Do you think Kyle Shanahan gives two craps as to who's solidified the job or this, that, the other thing? He just wants dude to go out there and run his deal.
So I think to supplant him, he would have had to come in and look like one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, where we saw, Purdy fall out at 11 or 12. Yeah. So, Purdy at 11. Yeah, if he would have come in and been even, Justin Herbert good, he probably beats out Purdy.
That's the weird part about it, is that he has the physical skill set to do that.
Sure.
And they both had the same coaches, the same offense, the same practice players, the same everything. He's a more physically talented player and still couldn't beat out Brock Purdy. That's what makes me, kind of scratch my head a little bit. But
I think there is some deference to the veteran who has been leading the team.
Sure.
If the talent is similar,
that could very
think
well
about
be.
Geno Smith and Russell Wilson. I mean, we saw Geno Smith come in to take over for Russ. That probably doesn't happen. Pete Carroll doesn't just flip the switch midseason and go, well, Geno has looked a little bit better in practice than Russ has. Let's go ahead and make the change.
I mean, that's true. Also, there's a big difference between Russell Wilson's production and Brock Purdy's production when you're talking about that seniority and veteran deference that's been built up when, Geno and Russ are going at it in comparison to Brock Purdy.
Look, if I could come up with the perfect situation to illustrate my point, then I would, but I'm just...
I'm not disagreeing with you either. I'm not. I'm just saying that I have a hard time with the idea of there's still this reservoir of untapped Sam Darnold potential that we haven't completely unearthed. I don't see it. I don't see it at all. In having him at this state or at this tier in this ranking makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, he's a bridge guy if there's ever been a bridge guy, in my opinion. And he can go out there and ball out and prove me dead nuts wrong, and that'd be amazing. But I think that they ranked him correctly. I think they probably did rank Geno a little too high. So when you're looking at that dichotomy between number 10 and whatever Darnold is here,
and considering 25, they just put all the young guys in above him too.
Yeah, I don't know that that's fair either, but I mean, it does go to show that the league as a whole and like people who watch a lot of the film have a lot of serious reservations about Sam still. And it lines up for me.
Well, the thing that illustrated that was the fact of Sam Darnold going to free agency, and he didn't get a crazy deal from Seattle. He got a deal that was, we all looked at and go, oh well, that's
we could have had a better quarterback for the same amount of money, but that's cool.
Yeah, an older quarterback
that's better. Like, because that's the one thing that I think I have the hardest time with all this.
I can tell that you have a hard time with it because you're still, carrying on about it.
You're right. That's going to stick in my craw.
Well, it is a transition, and here we go.
I mean, that's why we brought up the list, right? Was to talk about that dichotomy and all that. So it's not like I just go out of my way to go on about how much I didn't like this situation.
Well, the other thing that it does, it illustrates why Sam Darnold is on this other list that I came across, and it was the 10 riskiest contracts in free agency. And at number 10 is our very own Sam Darnold. So I think for people who want to be fully on board the Sam Darnold train, they should be. But I think it's just important, too, to illustrate of how, like, if you're wondering why in the win-loss rankings, why we seem so much lower. If you're wondering why you see this PFF list and you're like, oh, why is Sam Darnold so low? You see this other list of him being a potentially risky free agent. I mean, it's kind of just where he is and coming out of the situation that he's been in over the last few years. The fourth team he's been on in 4 years, and it brings risk into the situation. And so when you look at the 3 years, $100 million quarterback contract that he got, it makes sense why. I don't think you could have a top 10 riskiest free agent contract without Sam Darnold's name on this list.
I think you're right with that because of the fact that he plays quarterback. Like, that's one of the big reasons why it's up in the top 10 there. I don't know that it's necessarily about the contract itself, because I've heard from some people, and you're pretty good at the contract stuff, so maybe you can set me straight on this, because this is something that I still don't know that I have on lockdown.
Yeah.
It sounded like that there was a scenario where a 1 year out is something that's there and easy peasy for the Seahawks, or it's 2 years in and out, depending on stuff. I guess I'm still confused as to where that shakes out.
Yeah, if you go by the spot track numbers, it really is the outs more at the 2 year window than the 1 year window. If you get out at the 1 year window, you have a really large dead cap amount. Like, you can get out of contracts anytime, right? Like we saw the Broncos do that with Russ and took a really heavy hit. It's more of a 2 year deal, though, for Sam than it is a 1 year deal.
Okay. So 1 year, let's say it doesn't go well, you decide to move on. I mean, you have 1 year where a middle tier quarterback salary is counted against your cap.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's like what the Rams did with the Jared Goff. It's like, with the 49ers have
like a Jimmy G
year,
like
where he was pretty high. Yeah. I think anytime that you're signing kind of a high-end quarterback, I think you just kind of build it into the deal that you're probably gonna have to pay for a year that you really don't want to pay for.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the market. So in terms of just the contract, the way it's structured, the amount, all of that, I'm not sure that it's all that risky of a contract. I think really there's really only two factors that play into why this makes list. Number one, we're talking about quarterback.
Yeah.
And
he's not
number two.
This is not a list of quarterbacks either. This is just all free agents.
Exactly. And that's why quarterback rises to the top, right? Over, say, like a risky contract for a defensive tackle.
And it's not just amount, because Justin Fields is on this list at number 8 at a 2-year, $40 million, $30 million guaranteed. So his contract is viewed as more risky despite it being less.
I agree, because you were talking about Justin Fields' upside a minute ago and like how you believe in it more if he's going to a different team, rah, rah, rah. Okay, fine. But are the Pittsburgh Steelers in dire need of a quarterback or not?
They are. Mason Rudolph is their quarterback right now.
Right. Okay. They had Justin Fields in the building.
Yes.
Let him play for a while, then benched him for Russ. And then when the offseason came, said, no, thank you again. And sent him on to the Jets.
To both of them. They're like, we'll take our chances with Mason Rudolph and whoever else we might get, maybe Aaron Rodgers.
That's right. And that wasn't the god-awful situation in Pittsburgh. Like, there were things that you could work with there. There were some weapons that he had. There were, I think Arthur Smith is a fine coordinator. They had a good run game, good offense, blah, 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 good defense. But if he didn't make it work there and like show like a real flash, and the Steelers, who really need a dude, weren't like, yeah, we'll roll it with this again. Let's go. Instead, we're going to go and grab Aaron Rodgers if he ever decides to come back and play football again. Like, that's their plan over top of betting on Justin Fields' upside. I just don't see it. So that's a far more risky contract to me, because I think if you play the what's more likely game, it is extremely unlikely that Justin Fields ever hits as a quarterback at this point.
Between those two names, you have Talanoa Hufanga for the Broncos with a 3-year, $45 million contract coming off an ACL. So good reason why he's on there. Another former Seahawk hits this list with DK Metcalf at number 7 with his 5-year, $150 million contract.
Number 7, huh? That's interesting. I get it. And I think that probably all boils down to just how insane the wide receiver market is as a whole. Would you say that?
I think
and just
so.
trade down Pickens for DK? I don't know.
I think that one, because of the length of the contract, just the size of the contract overall, is why he hits the list at number 7. Gosh, the top 2 guys, Dan Moore, the Tennessee Titans, he got a 4-year, $80 million deal. I can see why that would be incredibly risky. Don't know if I would have been real happy as a Titans fan to see that contract, but yeah, for free agent offensive lineman, and you're kind of stuck in that scenario because Jalen Moore, he was also signed by the Chiefs to a big contract. He's at number 3. A couple of defensive guys, Milton Williams, defensive tackle for the Patriots, Josh Sweat of the Arizona Cardinals. I like that there's a Cardinals player on this list because, and I think it's warranted with Josh Sweat, coming from the Philadelphia Eagles, like that is a risk that they're taking on, that he can transition from the Eagles to the Cardinals and continue that high level of play without being surrounded by as much talent as is on that Philadelphia defensive line.
That's always an interesting gamble. We did it a little bit with Draymond a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
Around some good players and had some good numbers, and you're hoping that they can go from the, supporting cast to a leading role. And we'll see if that works out for Josh Sweat. Unfortunately for him on a personal level, he's going to have to try to do that in Arizona where careers go to die. So
it works out for us. I'm sorry for Josh, but you did this to yourself.
Surely did. Yep. There were other teams.
And I think the other reason for DK being on this list too, John Schneider has done a pretty good job of moving on from guys at the right time. We saw it with Russ. We've seen it with other players where, even, Bobby Wagner has been kind of the one who's been able to bounce around and still play at a high level, but
just not here.
Just not here. Yeah. He's been the one. But if you're going to, or 7-time All-Pro, 10-time Pro Bowler, first ballot Hall of Famer. Yeah, those are guys that you probably shouldn't bet against anyway.
It's a good point. But the DK one, I do think that's a little unfair to DK. Pencil him in for 15 games and 1,000 yards.
With Mason Rudolph at quarterback.
Sure. But he's that kind of guy in terms of being consistently healthy, getting on the field, We saw him push through injury so many different times,
right,
and has been productive year in, year out.
And who else are they going to throw the ball to now that George Pickens is gone to Dallas?
Freiermuth.
Yeah, right. There you go. So those are a couple lists. I have a third list, but now I'm tempted to save it for my do better this week.
Oh, okay. Very good.
What do you say we get to the second half of the show?
Sounds like a plan.
Getting into the second half of the show, Adam, this past week, Clinton and I talked about some of the new rules coming out to the NFL. Oh, we talked about a rule that didn't get passed, a couple rules that didn't get passed. So then I guess not technically new rules. The main thing I wanted to ask you, do you have strong feelings about the tush push?
No. I mean, if the league decides that they don't want to have it in the game, fine, we'll just do regular quarterback sneaks. It's not that big of a difference. If they choose to keep it in because they're like, well, I mean, it's within the rules, and if you don't like it, stop it. Totally fine with that too. Don't see this as a earth-shattering thing that there should be a lot of hand-wringing over, but some people seem to have big feelings about it. I guess that's fine.
I think Jalen Hurts could effectively run quarterback sneaks without being pushed to where people would be just about as equally frustrated by it.
How much does the push really help, by the way?
I don't know if it helps a ton depending on how much yardage you really need. I mean, if we're talking about 1 or 2 yards, I think he's probably getting it either way. Because the weird thing is that we saw the Bills line up for quarterback sneaks over and over. And you think Josh Allen, well, he's a big, powerful dude. Like his body is, he's taller than Hurts. And so maybe Hurts has a little bit lower center of gravity. I think it has a lot to do with the offensive line, though. So if that combination of O-line and quarterback, I don't think that, I don't think it matters too much.
It's true. Look, the Bills' offensive line is a pretty good offensive line as well. And so I think maybe just the way that Hurts is built, it does kind of lend itself for success there. Plus the Eagles, they have an excellent offensive line, and it's something that they obviously practice and have just gotten better at than everybody else. And if you want to get better at it, then practice it more. If you want to get better at stopping it, practice it more. And then the other part of it is I don't think that there's any conclusive health data that shows that this is a more dangerous play than any other football play. Some people just don't like the optics of it. That's fine.
I think that's what it is. I think it's more about the optics. And so they throw the health thing in there like, well, we don't know. So,
yeah.
But the other thing that we talked about, the onside kick rule changed. So now it doesn't have to be in the fourth quarter. You just have to be trailing. And you only have the kicking team now only has to go 9 yards instead of 10 to try and recover it.
Okay. Trying to do something to increase the odds of success of that a little bit. And I like that. That makes the game a little more interesting. I do think, while I like the majority of the new kickoff rules, I do think the way that it's affected onside kicks has been at a detriment. But not the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination.
No, and I suppose it's probably taking some of the health thing risk out of it by not allowing the kicking team to have a running start. But so they're trying to, I think, get it back to where it used to be. And maybe you could increase the potential for the kicking team to recover it a little bit more. So let's start with 1 yard and see what the percentage change different is. And if it doesn't change much, then maybe it'll go to 8 yards. It's kind of how they're doing things with the kickoff rule, right? And bringing it back to changing it from the 30 for the touchback and now changing it to the 35 for the touchback. Like, kickers, we want you to kick in the landing zone and not kick it into the end zone. How much do we have to penalize you to kick it into the landing zone? Because if it's not the 30, let's see if it's the 35.
Yeah, I was dubious whether or not the 30 would be enough. And clearly it wasn't for head coaches and special teams coaches in their strategy and the way they were going to play kickoff returns. They were like, yeah, okay, fine. 30 instead. Have a nice day. I probably would have made it the 40 and just let's quit clowning around. Like, that's like kicking it out of bounds. Coaches freak out when you do that.
Right.
So I would like that. Like, just make them put it in play. Make it a football play. I like it. Why not make kickoffs a fun part of the game that makes a difference, to where you've got guys at the back end of the roster that now are difference makers on special teams, and it truly becomes closer to a third of the game than what we have or have had over the last 10, 15 years.
Well, this way it allows the coaches to maybe ease into it as far as their risk tolerance, because last year it's like, okay, well, we're defending a brand new play essentially because the guys aren't running downfield. Now they're stationary, set up downfield. And how are we going to defend this, block it up to where if one of our guys misses a critical block, then it's going to be a touchdown. And we've seen that happen a couple times where those plays break down and you get a touchdown, but that's kind of how things used to be.
Yeah. Back in the day when you saw guys returning it a little more than they did, I'd say probably in the last 10 years, short of since they changed the rule. But
yeah,
I like it, man. Like, just give some special teams guys some love. Give them the opportunity to go out there and play and do something for real, rather than just run down the field towards the end zone and then try to make the fans cheer. Right? Like, yeah, I think it's great. I know that Clinton has big, strong feelings about this. He thinks it's a disaster because, oh, my stars, if they come out to the 35, it's the end of the world.
Okay, from his perspective, though, he thinks it's going to be status quo, that coaches will continue to be risk averse and kick it into the end zone. They'll bring it out to the 35. And so I think from the same end, Clinton wants to see a regular play because he just wants to see the kickers backed up. I mean, to that point, I'd say let the kickers line up wherever they want to make this play effective. And if it has to be kicking off wherever and the penalty is now 40, similar to, like you said, the kicking it out of bounds, however you need to make that work. I think our goals all as fans is that we want to see that play actually matter.
Yeah, I don't understand making the kickers move back. I mean, just make the kickers kick it into the zone. What else are they doing all week rather than practicing that? Like, go out there and start hitting some wedges, right? Like, not everything has to be a driver. I mean, be more well-rounded.
Maybe some kickers can't do that.
Well, then they better figure it out or they're going to get replaced, because things change. But I like
instead of walking around the practice field and bouncing the football off the ground like a basketball and seeing if you can catch it, you can kick rather than do that.
That's right. Yeah, you can work on some 7-irons, like try to lob them in there.
It all comes back to golf.
It does. For kickers and quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. And pitchers.
Another thing, this one was interesting to me, adopting the postseason overtime rules for regular season games. And a while back, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, people got real tired of, if the team gets the ball first and they go down and score a touchdown, then it's not fair to the other team. Even though it's an overtime, it's just not fair. Both teams have to have the ball, especially in the playoffs. And, I was reluctant to be kind of okay with that because it's the playoffs and fine. But moving this to regular season, it seems awfully silly to me.
This is stupid. Every single step that we take that's further away from sudden death is stupid. I mean, they talk about player safety all the time.
Yeah.
And we keep changing these rules to extend overtimes further and further when guys are more tired than they've been, throughout the entire game and are more prone to injury at that point, as you maybe let your technique go away a little bit as you start to wear down throughout the process of a extended game. I mean, look, what was wrong with scoring a touchdown and ending the game? Like, it's not fair.
What was wrong with kicking a field goal and ending the game in regular season overtime? Like, it's regular season.
Yeah. I had zero problems with it. If you don't like it, have a better defense.
Win in regulation.
Win in regulation. That's the entire point. This is an offloading of responsibility of having not done the things to secure the game earlier. Like, that's what this is. And I can't stand it. Like, just let's not make overtimes go on for the full 10-minute periods. This is going to result in more ties, I think, at the end of the day. And who likes that?
Well, I guess the argument, maybe there won't be more ties necessarily, because if you think about this, If you have the ball first, you go down and you score a touchdown. If you're the team to possess the ball second, once you make it down, you score a touchdown, you're going to be going for 2 rather than going for a tie, unless you're trying to play some scenario where a tie benefits you more than winning. But that's going to be pretty rare.
Maybe. I could see a ton of coaches not going for 2 in that situation.
And just taking the tie?
Or at least put yourself in position now to where if you like the way your defense is playing, you get the ball back and now you just have to have a field goal to win.
There's not going to be enough time for that. If one team already scored a touchdown and now you scored a touchdown.
Yeah. This is stupid. Just make it sudden death. It wasn't broken. All the whiners about, the quarterback didn't get to have it. Like, the world's not fair, yo. Like, that's how it is. Like, sometimes
a coin flip is going to decide the game if you can't decide it in regulation. And that's why I was fine with the field goal thing. In the playoffs, it made sense to do to take it away from just being the field goal, because
that's fine. Okay, I can live with that.
We had a sweet spot there where I think we had it nailed, but now the pendulum's swinging a little bit too far for my liking.
Absolutely. If you don't like losing on a touchdown in overtime, have a better defense.
It's going to come down to both defenses now, potentially, and we'll see. I don't know. I might change my mind depending on how things go, but for now, I was fine with the field goal. I was fine with the touchdown, but we're filling up the whole overtime period. But it means more football, so I guess I can live with it that way.
Yeah, except for how many times is some crappy like Jags-Titans game in overtime, and you're trying to watch the Hawks, and they hang on to the crappy game with 2 crappy teams that nobody gives a crap about because it's in overtime, so it's exciting, and you miss the first half of the first quarter of the game. Like, that annoys me way more than the idea that, well, I guess we couldn't wrap it up in regular time of possession, and so then we lost in overtime because we couldn't get it done in regulation. It bothers me way more, like, having to sit through.
And I don't know why they do this with NFL Sunday Ticket, too. Because if you have Sunday Ticket, you should be able to watch the beginning of the game that you're paying for. That game is obviously airing on TV.
Right. Yeah, the broadcasters are still doing their thing.
Yeah. And it's probably in the local market at the very least, I would think. So, yeah, why do we get stuck watching the overtime of some game because that's the network game? I don't understand.
Longer overtime is not good for the league as a whole. It's just not. All it is the only thing that it's good for is fantasy football people who now get another possession and more stats and all that crap. And I do believe that plays a factor in a lot of people's objection to the idea that both quarterbacks don't get the ball.
Well, another thing that they changed, the NFL is expanding the use of replay assist. They're now going to be able to use it to look at hits on a defenseless player, grabbing of the face mask, performing a horse collar tackle, tripping, running into, or roughing the kicker. I didn't realize they couldn't use replay assist for running into the kicker. But the tweak about this, though, Adam, is that replay assist can only be used if a flag is thrown in those scenarios.
Right.
So if a guy grabs the face mask, like what happened with Rams and Vikings, a flag doesn't get thrown, replay assist still can't come in and say, oh, you missed a big, obvious face mask.
This is tricky in terms of how you handle this as the league in making things that weren't called reviewable. I think that is a path into just bogging the game down to a point to where it's no longer enjoyable to consume. So it sucks. Like, and again, this goes back to life's not fair, right? Sometimes these things go against you and it really stinks and it hurts your feelings. And there's just no 2 ways about it. And that happens. But I don't think that I'm willing to trade this quote unquote certainty of not missing those things for being able to review things that haven't had a flag thrown on them. But I like the replay assist as a whole. I thought that they did a good job of moving it along. I think it sped up the game in a number of situations. And the more that you put it in the eye of the sky, which generally has the better viewpoint of things and the ability to rewind, like the guys down on the field don't have, I like it. And they're getting through it quickly. And so expand it as much as you want for the most part to me.
The thing that concerns me about this is that flag component of it, because I think that not allowing them to review the call, like a face mask call, if they see it was blatant and they can call down to a ref and say, drop the flag, then I think that speeds it. I want to catch the obvious things that we all see on TV and go, well, why didn't they call that? And
then where's that line, right?
Well, it has to be, there's that line, but the thing that I worry about with it having to be a flag thrown on the play, it makes me think that maybe officials will get a little too flag happy and say, well, I think I saw it, so I'm going to throw a flag because the replay assist is going to be there to take a look at this. And then is that going to slow it down? So there's different aspects to it that if they're just going to do that anyway, then why make it so it has to be a flag thrown?
Well, like I said, just because now, okay, so every potential face mask is being looked at. Like, a guy catches a finger and he's got it for, a half a tick, and then the guy's head like moves through the play and the hand falls off the face mask. Are you going back and dropping flags for those? Or is it just like,
no, more like where the guy's
NFC, yeah.
It gets turned sideways.
Game. Right. Like, then how do you, and then when they don't go back and review one that's,
though, even the officials on the field have to deal with that because it's like holding. At what point is it in fact a hold versus normal play, I guess? I think it makes it a cleaner operation to be like a flag has to be thrown. And I do think that your point of the idea of guys getting flag happy, there's logic in that in terms of, okay, I'm not sure, throw the flag, let the camera tell me what's up. But then I also wonder, these officials have fought the idea of Sky Daddy for so long. They hate it. They hate being overturned on the field. They can't stand it. So are you really going to go flag happy and throw more flags and then just let the guys upstairs figure it out? Or are you going to be like, I'm not giving them extra opportunities to make me look stupid? Because even if you're just like, well, I'm unsure, let them figure it out. It looks bad on you because you threw the flag to begin with. And people are like, oh, he always throws a flag. He doesn't know what's up with pass interference or whatever it is. I know that's not one that they're reviewing here, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this goes in practice. But I think as far as review as a whole is concerned, I think the way you fix it when you're talking about the flag, not flag thing is I think you make not flag things challengeable. Mm-hmm. So it falls within your like 2 challenges throughout a game. Right.
And then now it's not mucking up the entire game. But if an egregious one goes down, you can be like, nope, go back and look at that. I think that might be the solution.
I think the other component to this now that replay assist that is brought in on these plays, I think that if a flag is thrown and they call it, then a coach's challenge can say, oh, well, that didn't happen. And you can go back to the replay assist. Although, if replay assist is working as it should, I feel like they could call down and say, no, that was a phantom call, pick it up. It just relies on trust, I think. And I think where we saw a lot of that, the challenge part and the reluctance of the officials are when coaches would challenge the refs more so than the Sky Daddy challenging the refs.
Right.
Because, the refs are kind of all on the same team. But when the coach challenges them, they're like, no, we got it. It was good.
Right.
You're overturned.
Right. Okay. Well, it is interesting. I do think that they'll continue to play with this and tweak on it. And I guarantee you that there will never be a perfect system for officiating a football game. It'll never happen.
But we have come up with a perfect system of helping to support the show, Adam. We have our executive producers. We've got DCH, Ryan Peterson. We've got JC Schilling in the 313th, and executive producer for the show coming in with a $121.20 donation. That's 1212 with a decimal point before the second 2. Haley Pekka coming in saying, love the podcast. That's coming in via PayPal. So welcome to the flock, and thank you to Haley.
Oh, big shout out, Haley. That's super generous, and man, thank you a ton. It's gonna really help out the show. We appreciate everything, especially in this off season with you little flockers continuing to get in and re-up and memberships and stuff. Like, this is a big time for us, man. So if you can find it in your wallet and your heart, make it happen.
Yeah, and Haley, I guess I need to send, because that donation would get you into the Facebook Ring of Honor group. If you want to join us out on Facebook, that definitely qualifies you for being in our Discord. Send you a link to the Discord. So, yeah, if you want to be there, hang out with us in those spots, then you are welcome there as well. Of course, you can always go through getintheflock.com, which is where Chris Sheasley came in at the $3 level. Welcome to the flock to Chris.
Heck yeah, man. Welcome, Chris. Appreciate having you. Yeah, looking forward to pick them and stuff when that comes. So it'd be nice to have Chris part of that.
And if you want to anonymize your donation, as Seahawks fan did, Seahawks fan came in via Patreon at the $7.50 level. So welcome to the flock to Seahawks fan.
Yeah, welcome to the flock to somebody that doesn't exist because they don't want to be recognized. Like, nobody's getting in the flock.
The government doesn't need to know where you donate your money.
About what?
Yeah. You just call yourself Seahawks fan and you're good.
That's right. Exactly. I mean, if somebody were to try to do that, but clearly nobody's doing that.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Getintheflock.com is where you go, or you can go to seahawkerspodcast.com if you want to find out how to donate via PayPal, via Venmo at Hawkra. Any way you want to help support the show, out on YouTube, youtube.com/Seahawkerspodcast. If you want to join and donate there too. And we've got an email, Adam. For people who don't know, especially in this offseason, hey, if you want to keep the emails flowing, go Hawks at Seahawkerspodcast.com. Cam comes in, says, big fan from Vancouver. Super fired up about the draft. Now in the delusional optimistic period of the football year. Time for some speculation. If Darnold has a season that 75 to 80% of last season and behind the scenes Milroe develops, would there be a trade market for Darnold, and what would be a reasonable return for him?
A couple things there. I love where you're coming from, man, because it is talk yourself into it season. It is like I'm starting to get there, and I'm sure probably by time preseason comes along, I'll be like, well, maybe I was a little harsh on this Sam Darnold thing. Like I could see that going that way.
The thing is you want Sam to be good. You want Milroe to be good, because if Sam can go out there and show as much as he can and increase his trade value, that would probably be the best option, would be that he goes out and balls out, and maybe there's a team that needs a quarterback around the trade deadline, and Milroe by that point has shown enough to where I don't know.
It's basically the Vikings from last year. You just have another year of contractual control, so you actually could trade him and get an asset.
Right. Which is part of the benefit of having Sam under a at least 2-year type of contract, is that he still would be tradable. Maybe not at the trade deadline, because that gets kind of messy. If he's played well enough to put you in position to where you're looking at the playoffs, because if it's a Russell Wilson situation and Sam Darnold's on the bench, he's probably not getting traded for. So the best scenario is one really good year of Sam, to where other teams demand for him's there, and that you can get a pick for him next offseason. Milroe has a full year to develop to where you're pretty confident he can take over, similar to how the Vikings seem confident with McCarthy. That's the situation you want to be in, but you want the December high-end trade where you're looking at Sam Darnold and the Vikings and going, man, they're going to have to sign this guy long-term.
Right. I'd say that's the second best case scenario.
Okay.
First best case scenario is Sam Darnold comes out and balls the catfish out. It is amazing. Like, takes us to at least a championship game and is like hyper competitive. And you're like, dude, this guy really isn't that old. And I thought it was a fluke with the Vikings, but look what he just did with Kubiak. They're like a marriage made in heaven.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, that's the best case scenario.
Yeah, and and I'm dead freaking wrong, and Sam Darnold is awesome. Like, that's best case scenario.
Yeah.
second best case scenario is exactly what you described. He plays well enough to where you're like, cool, but I'd like to see what the kid has. And he asked about trade compensation. A more accomplished guy, while older, we saw just go for a 3rd round draft pick to his buddy coach in right. Geno Smith, right? So I can't imagine it would be an ounce higher than a 3rd rounder. I would guess it'd probably be closer to what we gave up for Sam Howell when we brought him in.
That's a rookie contract, though. So a veteran who has balled out and still has
like 80% balled out, right?
Oh, yeah, because that's what he says, 75 to 80%. Third is probably, 3rd or 4th is probably a safe estimate of the trade compensation. Because, and the reason why it's a 3rd or a 4th is because the way teams look at it is that if you were allowed to, if he were just allowed to go to free agency and finishing up his contract, then it would be a 3rd round comp pick based on, because quarterbacks just tend to sign high. So that gives you the back end of the 3rd round as a compensatory pick when they do those. So that's why that value ends up falling out there. If there's like high demand, then you're talking about, it's outside of that 75 to 80%. And then that's where you start getting into 1st and 2nd round picks.
Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a whole host of ways this can go here this season. And for everybody else who's already fully into tuck yourself into it season, I endorse it. I'm getting there, and we'll see. I mean, when we're hoisting Lombardi at the end of this year.
That would be a fine problem to have next offseason. I kind of like being in that Vikings type scenario where you're like, oh, well, we could go with the veteran who just won us 14 games, or we can go with the rookie who we have a lot of faith in potentially going forward. And whatever way we decide not to go, we're looking at draft compensation for trading to another team that might want to take that chance on one of those guys.
Yep. And then in that scenario, now you're operating with your guy on the rookie deal, has the year under his belt that you're looking for a guy like Milroe. And I mean, that'd be all roses right there. That's for sure.
What do you say we get on to some do better and better at life?
All right, man. My do better this week is for Amazon, because recently Brittany and I have had one of the first generation smart TVs, for a good long time now. And, it did its thing. It worked fine. I was just getting to the point to where it was updating, because freaking updates all the time. And it was just chugging, and you couldn't hardly watch anything on the thing. And it was getting frustrating. And I think I had said on the pod that our little guest cabin got mushed by a tree last spring, and just about ready to get that fixed back up here, but stole the TV out of there. It's a new, I think it's an Insignia. Just bought it like a year ago, but it's the Amazon TV thingy, right?
Sure.
The Amazon Prime one. All right, cool. So I put it up, start programming it all in. Cool. Everything's looking good. But the time was off an hour, and I was like, okay, well, we can't have that because that's going to confuse me. I'm easily confused. We need to change this, right?
Yeah.
So I go to the settings. Go to change the time on the deal. Couldn't do it. You want to know why? Because I couldn't remember my freaking Amazon Prime catfish pin, because apparently I got to sign in with Prime to change the time on my freaking TV. Like, why is that password protected? Why is this a thing? The most annoying thing in the world. Do I remember that pin? Hell no. There's no way that I'm going to remember that. So annoying. Brittany managed to find it on some photo she had sent me with it written down on a piece of paper from 2 years ago so we could log in and change the TV. But to think that I'm locked out of basic settings on the TV that I bought, I own it. It's mine. It's not theirs anymore. That's mine. You can't lock me out of turning up the brightness. So catfish and dumb. This pissed me off to no end. And for that, Amazon Prime and Insignia, do better. Infuriating.
There's areas where it makes sense. Changing subscriptions, things that are going to cost you money if somebody were to gain access. This is the same problem that I have when I go to the bank to deposit money and they want to know some secret password to actually just deposit money into my account. because I'm completely fine with a stranger coming along and giving the bank money and putting it into my account like that.
That's right.
That should not be password protected.
No restrictions on people giving money into my account. That is always open. Yeah,
that should not be restricted. So yeah, similar to this, no restrictions on changing settings within the TV.
That's just the dumbest thing in the world. I think we're just gonna have to get like a big white paint pen and just paint the pin on the back of the TV. Then you'd never have to.
Oh, there you go. Well, this is just a note to all software programmers.
People's obsessions with locks and security as a whole has gotten out of control. Like, just remember, locks only keep honest people honest, whether that's on the settings on your TV or your car doors. Like, if they're getting in, they're getting in. It's just an inconvenience to you. Otherwise, and it takes away some of your freedom.
Well,
so.
Two-factor authentication electronically is pretty handy to have in some cases.
Yeah, we all know that's going to be obsolete in about, I don't know, anywhere from 6 months to 2 years.
Well, it might be obsolete for you.
We're screwed. No, for everybody. AI, dude, nah. Like, there's going to be no such thing as privacy and security ever again once that gets fully unleashed.
Oh, boy. We're getting into conspiracy podcast Adam here.
That's from the developers themselves, man. Like, that's not a conspiracy at all.
My do better this week. It's the one list that we didn't quite get to, and it was from Mo Morton of Bleacher Report, and it was the one move every NFL team still needs to make in the 2025 offseason. So I'm going to throw this out to you, Adam.
Okay.
What's one move that the Seattle Seahawks still need to make? Like, it's not a perfect roster. Where's maybe an area where that John Schneider could focus his attention and maybe add some more depth, maybe add a talent piece that's going to help this team really be a playoff team in 2025.
A cap casualty guard or center, like a guy that they cut because he was injured, but was pretty good before then. And they just didn't want to pay him that full cap number and take a swing. I'm not saying that guy's going to come in and be a starter, but just one more bite at the apple.
Yeah, a team with a draft pick that they have a guy whose contract they're willing to move on from. And yeah, in the offseason, you start to see teams, whether it's through the OTA period, it tends to be more in training camp, but that tends to become available. And that would make a lot of sense. Where do you think that Mo Morton of Bleacher Report went?
Corner.
Not corner.
Oh.
The Seattle Seahawks sign wide receiver Gabe Davis.
Okay, for how much? For how long?
Well, I think that that part is inconsequential, but I think he's saying that they have enough cap space to make that move potentially. Mm-hmm. This is the write-up. The Seahawks have enough room to add another big play wideout to the offense. Wideout Cooper Kupp is an injury-prone possession receiver who missed 18 games over the last 3 years. Hey, are you Mo Morton of Bleacher Report?
No.
Oh, just curious.
You can't prove it.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling averages a career 17.4 yards per reception, but he has an alarming 49.5% catch rate. He would be a solid number 3 option in the Seahawks passing attack and a primary big play target if Valdez-Scantling isn't able to carry over his momentum from the previous season in Clint Kubiak's system. There's a couple things that I have a problem with. One is the idea of carrying momentum from a previous season. Momentum is reserved for in-game football games. Like, that's the only time that you can have that. You can't have momentum within the draft period as draft stock rises or falls. You can't have momentum.
Between 2012 and 2013, were you not feeling the momentum? Because I surely was.
That was just a team on the rise. It wasn't momentum.
Oh, are those different things?
I think we have to be very careful how we use momentum. People are very sensitive to this momentum word.
All right. Yeah. Don't just throw Uncle Mo around everywhere, right?
No. Okay. And with Mo Morton, he should understand momentum. But the other part I had about this is the alarming 49.5% catch rate by Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And I think that the 49.5 is actually a career number. So I think there's it's a valid percentage, but to define it as alarming, as if catch percentage is equal to drop rate, because that's not the case.
Those are different deals, right?
Very different deals. If you go back, and I did this, I went back and I watched every pass thrown to Valdez-Scantling in 2024. And that was during his time with Buffalo, where it was really, he had 2 catches in 9 passing attempts. And this is really illustrated. If you go and watch even just those 9 and you go, oh gosh, he only caught 2 passes thrown to him by Josh Allen with the Bills. He only caught 2. Well, you go back and you watch all 9 of those plays, and I'd say the 2 that he catches, just wide open catch and throw. Like some of them are down, or one's downfield, one's kind of a short pass. The other 7, I would divide up kind of like this. Like there's probably 2 where Allen threw to him, where the defender was just like right on top of him and was able to smack the ball down. So good defensive play, not really on the receiver because he was covered. And then I think the other 5 were Josh Allen scrambling and a couple times throwing across his body into multiple coverage, sometimes overthrowing Valdez-Scantling, sometimes hitting the defender in the hands. It's like none of those are Marquez's fault. Like those are all just the quarterback throwing into an area where he might be throwing at his feet or he just is making a bad pass. And that carried over to his time in New Orleans too, to where I don't think I would classify maybe one where it hit him in the hands where I really would have liked to see him come down with, but it was kind of a tough catch. One fell into that. 2 of them were like, oh, he caught the ball, but it was too close to the sideline to quite get his feet down. One was in the end zone. One was right on the sideline. And then all the other ones, it was just either overthrows, underthrows, ones where I wouldn't even put it on either the quarterback or the receiver. It was just like a 40-yard pass downfield, and the timing just wasn't quite there. That's nobody's fault.
Ding! Like that was the big thing that I was thinking about with this, is the idea that MVS, his primary role in most offenses has been the vertical threat.
Right.
So if you're having really deep average depths of targets, I'm going to guess that the percentage of how many times those work out are probably a little lower than, say, like a Wes Welker type in a possession receiver underneath.
Yeah.
So, just another example of where stats can lie in, I don't know about you, Brandon, but like for me, we've talked about this a little bit off the show as well. Just, I feel like we've entered the era of the cherry picking of stats is like, it's making it so stats do absolutely lie and don't line up with the eye test at all.
I'm considering an off-season series to where we look at some of those stats because, Valdez-Scantling, and the interesting thing is he points it out. He averages 17.4 yards per reception in his career. That's far. That's far. That means that you're going to him downfield a lot. And I bet if you were to look at it, a lot of those guys in those situations probably have a catch rate of about 50-50 because it's really hard to link up that timing perfectly, consistently. Derek Carr did it really well. That was one of the other takeaways that I had watching the film with Marquez, is that, oh my gosh, when he and Derek Carr were linked up, he was throwing bombs and the Saints were scoring touchdowns. It was really fun. But for Mo Morton, for cherry picking your stat and the quote unquote alarming 49.5% catch rate, do better.
Do better. And that's not even addressing your feelings about Gabe Davis possibility in the offense.
Well, it just seems unnecessary. Like, if we're spending our free agent money on another receiver, okay, if it's a cheap veteran contract, fine.
Which I think that's about where you'd be with him at this point,
probably.
Right? After not producing in Jacksonville.
Where I go though with the one move that the Seahawks need to make, that's not it for me.
That one doesn't move the needle for you. Another NFL middling wideout, like that doesn't light your hair on fire. Doesn't blow up your skirt.
No, it does not. It would not be excited about that. But where your mind went first, offensive line depth, hey, count me in. But
That's
I
right.
think that, okay, to be fair to Mo, just generic offensive lineman, that maybe doesn't make that great of an article, especially if that generic offensive lineman isn't available currently. Because the way the article was structured was it was one person who's out there available that the team could go.
Oh, okay. So that would make sense. Look, if because obviously guys haven't been dropping like flies because there's a cutoff date for the cap casualty guys, right? And that's when we usually
hit
see
one of them, and then now the next one is like in August sometime.
Right. So yeah, I mean, if they're not out there and they're not on the list, then yeah, you can't choose from them, and I get it. But I wouldn't hate Gabe Davis. I like Gabe Davis.
It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, and everybody knows my feeling about wide receivers. Like, yeah, they're fine. Just get some dudes because it doesn't much matter.
Hey, I'm against anything that doesn't get Bobo on the field more. Come on now.
There you go. See? Yep. You don't want any Bobo minutes taken away.
No,
I get that.
Nope.
Yep.
On to Better at Life.
Yeah, moving on to Better at Life. My Better at Life than Skip Bayless this week is for the team at JWST, the James Webb Space Telescope. We may not be alone, Brandon.
Oh.
And we have found the strongest evidence yet that life may not be special to our little pale blue dot out here in our solar system. Recently, they pointed the telescope at an exoplanet called K2-18b. They need to workshop these names better because that just doesn't really have a ring. But they've gone back and they've looked at it here with James Webb, a little higher resolution. It's got the fancy pants cameras, and they wait for the planet to pass in front of the star in perspective to where the telescope is. And then they measure the light that passes through the big puffy atmosphere that this planet has. And then you can look at it on a spectrometer and you can break it down. You can be like, oh, well, it's 82% of this and 12% of that and doopy 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 doo. Well, and that's the words they use. That's in the literature. Doopy doopy doo.
It's the scientific term.
Yeah, look it up. It's perfect. But these guys are now claiming, some of the people that have written some of the research papers here is that they're at like a 3 sigma certainty. So like 0.1% wrong, 99.9%. They feel pretty strongly about what they're seeing here. Other scientists disagree, but either way, what they found is a couple of sulfides in the atmosphere, and they're fancy names, and I'm not going to try to pronounce them, but it's like dimethyl disulfide or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you told me you weren't going to try and pronounce it, but then you went and tried.
Yeah, I mean, I did try in earnest, but yeah, it was a half-hearted effort. But with that said, these are usually biomarkers. The only thing that we know as our species in the universe that produces these sort of chemical compounds is life itself in some of the like CO2, us breathing it out. These chemicals are part of things that life excretes. So anyhow, they've seen this thing. There's a lot of pushback. But it does seem as if this planet that's in the habitable zone going around this red dwarf may have, at the very least, bacterial, small microbial life, if not, larger organisms. It's pretty exciting, man. We may not be alone. JWST people, good work, and Better at Life than Skip Bayless.
I have a hard time, and maybe I'm a, microbiologist, but I can't get excited about microbes.
No?
No.
But, I mean, it does. I mean, if you find the microbes, right, then that means that there's a good possibility that there's more complex stuff somewhere else in the universe, right? Yeah. Right now, we don't even have that. So, like, I'd take microbes.
I just feel like we can, if the universe is relatively infinite, then I think we can go ahead and make that leap just logically, right?
Well, you would think so, but then there's the whole Fermi paradox thing, blah, 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 blah. But you don't like microbes as a whole. You don't.
I mean, I just can't get excied about them. Sorry.
Yeah.
They
don't make hand sanitizer for alien microbes either. So
I want to know, does this alien life planet, like, do they have shows that we can pick up on satellite eventually? I want to see what they watch.
It's possible. It's possible. You don't know.
Then I'm getting excited. If we got interplanetary satellite TV, count me in.
What do you think a sitcom from K2-18b looks like?
I mean, if it's microbes, it's not exciting.
Some microbe walks in and is like, Jerry.
It's a show about nothing.
It's a show about nothing. Yeah, because microbes are nothing, according to Brandon. Okay, fine. Whatever. Who's better at life than for you, Mr. I don't care?
Oh, how about our former Seahawks offensive lineman, Gary Gilliam? You know, he only, caught a touchdown pass in an NFC championship game. And now he's going on to other great heights, like being a published author. As I saw out on Field Goals this past week, Gary Gilliam returned to his elementary school, Milton Hershey School, to talk to students about his new book that he co-authored with one of the teachers there. And it's called The Bleacher Garden. And it teaches kids about the importance of gardening. And just kind of a cool thing. Apparently one of his passions has been getting into gardening. He founded something called The Bridge, which was a land development company that turns abandoned properties into eco villages. And they turned this football field and bleachers area that was repurposed into a garden that has produced a yield of more than 25,000 pounds of vegetables. And
holy hell.
That is one of the things that inspired his new book. So for Gary Gilliam, inspiring young people, doing cool things after football, and now being an author, you are better at life than Skip Bayless.
That's super cool. I had no idea that was an interest of Gary's there. And but it's cool that they're focusing on that and showing exactly what you can do with some of these spaces. So what I really need now is I need Gary to come out here.
Yeah.
And because I'm a miserable gardener. Like Brittany does a pretty good job. And, you know, we're in a tough climate for it. 5,200 feet. It's been a struggle. But with that said, I know I'm abysmal at it. Like, I know that it's a me problem primarily. So I could use a Gary's type help, like trying to figure out how to grow anything other than potatoes.
I'm the same way. Just even trying to grow decorative plants around the house. Yeah. I would like to be that type of person. I'm just not. So maybe after Gary does his children's book, he can do like, I don't know, flowers and food around your house for dummies like Adam and Brandon.
Yeah, and look, I'll sign up for that title all day. Yeah, if that would help, you bet.
If that book does come our way, Adam, a big thanks to Gary Gilliam, because it would help out our deal a lot. Also, people that help out our deal, it's our $12 and above supporters. They went to getintheflock.com. They went through PayPal. They're helping to support the show. And one of the things that we like to do, Adam, is call them out at least once a month and say thank you for their support.
Keith Ketover, a.k.a. Flocktimus Prime, University of Cybertron, Little Flockers, roll out.
DCH from Sparks, Nevada, the University of Montana Grizzlies.
Gary Blum from Chappaqua, New York, and the University of Pennsylvania, your 2016 Pick'em League champion.
Ron Pepper, UNLV Runnin' Rebels, San Francisco, California.
Hello, this is Hock Van Dyke from London, the 2024 champion of the Ring of Honor Fantasy Football League.
Lisa in Seattle.
Samuel Gelber, NoHo, California.
David Van Cleve, Camas, Washington, home of the Papermakers.
Leo Jose, Luleå, Sweden, from Luleå Eskimos and Renkomar in front.
Aaron Fisher, coming in from Henderson, Nevada. Go Hawks!
Chris Boucher, a.k.a. the biggest little flocker, South Central Louisiana State University. Go Mud Dogs.
Hey, it's JC Schilling, back from Germany, living on beautiful Whidbey Island now with Quinn and Hudson.
Go Tyler! Go Gino!
Go Hawks!
Hey Seahawkers, my name is Garen Taylor. I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world, North Idaho. Hashtag on the Rose. Go Hawks.
You heard from executive producers DCH and JC Schilling. A special thanks to our YouTube live executive producer, Ryan Peterson, as well as our new executive producer for this show, Haley Pekka. And continuing on down the list of $12 supporters and above, starting with Rebecca in Manhattan Beach, California, Christina in Manassas, Virginia, Craig in Camas, Jeremiah in the Bronx, Sven in Berlin, Deutschland, Kevin in Great Glen, England, Jonathan in Ridgefield, Brandon in Huntersville, North Carolina, Jake in Seattle, James in Beau Arts, Pepper in Greer, South Carolina, Kevin in Surrey, BC, JC in Horsford, England, Jay in Linwood, Hector in Monroe, Brian in Omak, Brian in Berlin, Connecticut, Tracy in Kaneohe, Hawaii, Connie in Gothenburg, Sweden, Marvin in Riverdale, Utah, Jeffrey in Kansas City, John in New York, Patrick in Sacramento, Bryson in Eltopia, Jeremy in Federal Way, Glenn in Ocoee, Florida, Paul in Portland, Daniel C. in the Greater Hoctum, Norma in the Greater Hoctum, Ken in Hutto, Texas, Jeff in Bainbridge Island, Mario in Seattle, Cora in Ditterstoichland, Anders in Viola, Denmark, JC in the Greater Hoctum, Warren in Dundee, Oregon, Chris in Austin, Amy in Squim, Richard in Killeen, Texas, Joseph in Vancouver, Joshua in the Greater Hoctum, Rafe in Beaverton, Oregon, Ryan in Salt Lake City, Eugene in Henderson, Nevada, Jamie in Oswestry, England, Marlon in the Greater Hoctum, Jason in Panama City, Florida, DJ in Menifee, California, BB in the Greater Hoctum, Alexander in Oranienburg, Deutschland, Kayla in Vancouver, Mark in Bexley Heath, England, Gordon in Valdez, Alaska, Ovary Smasher 69 in Phoenix, Jeff in Gilbert, Arizona, Sean in Cascade, Iowa via Kalispell, Montana, RJ in Kellogg, Oliver in Fort St. John, BC, Ian in Seattle, B-Walls in New York, Russell in Harpenden, England, Greg in Lake City, Colorado, Sam in Alamonte Springs, Florida, Chris in Manchester, England, Charles in Bremerton, Corey in Robertson, Australia, Mike in Kelowna, BC, Ken in Stanwood, Stu in Navarre, Florida, Ranger Luke in DuPont, Marty in Melbourne, Australia, Nathan in Fife, The Poetrist in Boise, Idaho, Nate in Solna, Sweden, RJ in Bucyrus, Kansas, Martin in Ferrum, Denmark, Jeremiah in the Greater Hoctum, Root in the Greater Hoctum, and Jack in San Diego. So that's it. That's our list of $12 supporters and above. And if you want to get on that list, you can go to getintheflock.com. Like I said, $12 and above. It gets you onto that thank you list whenever we do run it. And it's a cool deal. Another cool deal that we didn't even talk about. So promoting it at the end of the show, Adam, we got a video coming out this week of Jalen Milroe looking at maybe a few of his passes as well. One game in particular, the game against South Carolina, that maybe takes a look at Milroe's game as a whole, and that we can start to see some of those pieces that maybe got John Schneider excited about bringing him onto the Seahawks.
Yeah, we try to do it on a quicker scale. I mean, really, to get into the full thing, you kind of have to go through about 5 games and just watch play after play after play to really kind of, I think, make the points fully. But with that said, couple cool throws, couple cool runs, one not cool throw, just to kind of show you some of the gamut of some of the things in what you can expect to see out of a young Jalen Milroe. And it's exciting. I will say this, Brandon, through the quarterback process this year, there was only one guy that made me sit up and go, woo, it was excited watching his tape at times, and that was Milroe.
Ooh, I like that. And you say that, this show coming up isn't enough time. Hey, we've got all off season and weeks of list season to try and get through. Maybe if people like it, we do this more than once.
Sure. Yeah. I'm game. If people dig it, that's cool. If not, tell me I'm a moron. That works too. And then we know.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.